always learning and growing, attracting the right people, and keeping your vision in focus every day. This is the Brian Covey Show.
What's up, guys? Happy Wednesday. So today is going to be an epic day. I've been working to get Steve Sims on the show. Many of you know who he is. I'll introduce him here in a second. But it's one of those where you wait long enough, you schedule it, you get the calendars coordinated, and today is going to be fantastic. Before we jump into that, I want to remind you guys, the last couple of weeks, we've had great feedback. We had Barry Habib and Dave Savage on. You probably saw that Barry released his book, Money in the Streets. That came out. So I want to make sure you guys follow up on that opportunity. And then Dave Savage also had his National Modern Mortgage Originator Mastermind, which was fantastic as well. You guys want to make sure you tune into that. Every week, we're bringing you value, adding things that can help you learn and grow, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're part of a team, you're a team leader, or you're somebody that's just wanting to make a difference in the world yourself. That's what we try to bring you every week. And this week's going to be fabulous because Steve Sims, if you haven't heard of Steve, he literally is like the concierge to the stars and celebrities among celebrities. He's been featured in magazines and things like Entrepreneur Magazine, the New York Times, Forbes, CNBC. His book that came out 3 years ago that was on blue fishing, the art of making things happen, has been really one that has changed me because I started reading into it when I found out who Steve was. And we talked about in 2020, we all need to figure out ways to make things happen. And so I know that's going to be relevant today. Steve travels quite a bit right now. He's a keynote speaker. He just did a speakeasy in Nashville, Tennessee here with us. He had Coach Michael Burt, who many of you know that tune in here. And he's really a guy that's well connected. Actually just did an event for us in our West Coast crew out with Loan Depot and did a fantastic job there. So Steve, I'm sure I could go on and on. Your resume is impressive. But more importantly than that, like it's cool and it's fun and you're living life to the fullest, my friend.
Is there any other way?
No, right? And man, I saw a picture the other day and this kind of epitomized. I saw like you've got your motorcycle collection. I think it was you and your son out. You guys were heading out to ride. And I just thought, man, that's a picture of somebody that's figured out priorities, what's important and how to live life and to enjoy, while we're here and getting to do things.
Yeah. I realized ages ago, and it sounds all very kind of like, woo, but I realized probably about 12, 15 years ago, surprise that we're all going to die. And I thought to myself that when we do, there's this myth that your life flashes before your eyes. And I thought to myself, I want mine to be so full that there's an intermission for popcorn. So that's how I try to live my life now.
Dude, I love that. And you can see it as you've gone through. And what I love about your story is, I was going back through as I was kind of just prepping for our call and the show today. And you've had quite the life of I think a lot of people look at where Steve is today. And so I'd love to take some time and go backwards. And prior to doing all these cool things and opening your company and you're setting up all these amazing experiences for people, what was life like before you got in and started to really see some success?
It was exactly the same as you and Alec and Coach Burt and Barry and all of these other entrepreneurs. I spent most of my life being aggravated. Entrepreneurs are aggravated oysters. And as Joe Polish said, it's those aggravated oysters that make pearls. Yeah. So as a youngster, and I'm 53 years old, so I grew up, I was a 60s baby, but I did my growing up in the late 70s, early 80s. There was no such thing as an entrepreneur. In fact, I remember if you were an entrepreneur, then that was because you couldn't get a real job. And I remember being at school, I don't know what I did, but I got in trouble with the headmaster. And the headmaster was screaming at me that I'm nothing more than a hustler. And I remember at the time thinking, is that a bad thing? Yeah. Now, if someone walked into your company tomorrow and said, hey, stop your advertising for a new recruit, I'm the best hustler you ever meet, you're gonna recruit them on the spot. Yeah. Okay. But I came from a period where entrepreneur and hustler was a bad thing, you know? And now we're in a situation where we've got to find itself. Now, I didn't know I was an entrepreneur like most entrepreneurs.
Right.
But I knew I was aggravated. I knew there had to be something better. I grew up in East London to a construction family, my mum and dad. I ended up working for them a little bit. There's a really cool story about how I left them, if you want me to go into it. But as all entrepreneurs, we jump out of the frying pan into the volcano. You know, we take a 40-hour steady job with health benefits and go, screw that, I'm going to work 200 hours a week and rely on myself. You know, there's no reason behind it other than it's the spots that we carry and the stripes we are to make us who we are. So, you know, I was in East London. I traveled the world. I did so many different jobs, from door-to-door salesman, car salesman, truck driver. I did all these kind of things. And the strange thing is, it was the worst job that I got that propelled me into the world I am now. And the daft thing is, people always go, oh, if you could go back in time, what would you do? Now, the funny thing is, if I was smart, I'd go, well, I would have stopped myself getting that terrible job.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed very early on that our success doesn't come from success. Our success comes from failures and the education on what not to do to quadruple the success we would have had. Had I not been in that dark place with that shitty job, I wouldn't be sitting here now texting Elton John, you know, simple as that.
Well, don't you think I look back, like the periods in my life that I had the most adversity, you hit rock bottom, you don't think you can go any further, and then you do. And you look back and you realize, like, that was a time there was like a gut check. Like, am I going to step forward, or am I going to be the person that retreats and gets completely off path? And I love that you said that. It's like, there are jobs and there's things that we've all had to do, all of us where we are, that we didn't want to do them. And I'm with you. Like, I look back and go, I don't know that I'd want to do that again. But in that season, it's what was required. And I love how you talk about some of this, and you're talking about, you know, even in your book, of like making things happen. And I think this year, we were talking about before we went live, is there's been, what I've seen is these two camps dividing. There's people that are waiting for the cure, like we talked about, and the vaccine and things just to get better and to go back to normal, whatever that is. And there's this other group that's experimenting and trying and just doing whatever they can, but they're taking action. Over your experience, like, what's separating them, and why are people not taking action? And then, or maybe, why are people taking action? Because it's a divide, I see.
Yeah, fear creates two triggers. And it's always fear. I've done this at a speaking event before. If you run onto stage and you go, hey, everyone run out the back door, there's 5 really beautiful models and they've each got a briefcase with $500,000 in them. Whoever gets to the briefcase first can keep the money.
Yep.
How many people do you think would run out of that room?
Oh.
You really think so? Think about it. Truthfully, most people would just sit there going, that can't be real. They're doubtful. You know, that can't happen. Even though I've explained everything, you may get a couple of looky-loos at the back that are leaning up against the door that would just open it. But most people would just sit there going, that can't be real. He's not giving us $500,000. But if I run onto the stage, grab the mic and shout in just one word, fire, how many people do you think would leave the room?
Oh, that would be the group that would go. You're right.
Yeah, you see, the bottom line of it is fear creates a trigger. The trigger is up to you to how do you respond. A lot of people at the moment are heavily fear-based, and we're seeing a divide in the world because of the political. We're seeing a divide and distraction and distortion because of COVID. So we've got all of this fear, oppression, pushing certain people down. And then on the other case, you've got that fear that propels people forward. You see, I'm terrified of not being able to support my family. Yeah. I am terrified of being in the exact same place this time next year without having tried things, experienced things, failed at things, educated. I'm terrified that I'm not going to go forward because fear creates stagnance. It creates a time when you're just stood still. And when things stand still for long enough, they die. So at the moment, people are in those two camps. Do you decide that fear is going to make you sit down and binge watch everything on Netflix? Or do you decide that fear is going to propel you to make the most of this moment? Because you're not getting 2020 back. It's not going to be a case of, oh, the vaccine's gone, we're going to tack another year on the end of your life. It's done. So you've got to make sure you live it.
And I love that. And, and I think it actually was, Coach, that we were talking about this the other day is like what motivates certain people. And I think some of us are similar in that of like not being able to provide for my family and not being able to, do certain things for them motivates me. It's like, I need to get up, show up and put my best in. And that fear of loss or not having some things that you've worked for and highly successful people, I found you're right that you can turn fear into a motivator instead of sitting back. And I love how you've gone out and you've spoken about these things like in your speakeasy and things there. You had me thinking a second ago, because my first reaction is, what would Brian do? Well, if Steve got up there as somebody and said, hey, there's models out back with briefcases of money, I'm going because it could be true. It could not be true, but I'm going because chances are I lose nothing if I go.
And that's the differentiator. There's entrepreneurs and there's wantrepreneurs. And every business owner, whether they want to admit it or not, has been laughed at, ridiculed. They've gone broke. They may have gone bankrupt. They've been sued. All of those things. But the bottom line of it is, you're not an entrepreneur unless most of those things have happened, because the wantrepreneur gets one of those elements and goes, whoa, I'm going to go and get a job at Target, and runs away. So there's a massive difference between the entrepreneur and the wantrepreneur. The downside about pre-COVID, was that Instagram was there to basically show you how inadequate your life was, but also to show off all of these influencers leaning up against cars that they don't own, going, hey, if you want this, buy my course for $12.99. And there was too much of that life going on. And do you know they're not around anymore? They don't exist. So I think we're actually back into a substance economy. We're now back into a credibility. What do you do? How can you help me? I don't have time for the fluff. So I'm hoping that COVID's going to be a great wash of that.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's going to flush people out because, to your point, you got to have substance behind it today, because you could show up before and you're right. You could have all the cool cars or the setup and make it look like you were doing all these things, sell your course on how to do it, but you've never done it. And
I actually posted the other day. Sorry to cut in. I
No,
posted the other day, and I didn't follow up with it. I thought about it, but I didn't follow up with it, thanks to my wife being smarter than me. I posted that, isn't it amazing how many influencers talk about other people's achievements? And I got a very well-known influencer, a guy, I won't mention names, contact me going, dude, we're all in this. For a start, 53-year-old British guy he called dude. He's like, dude, we're all in the same sandpit. We shouldn't basically be crapping where we sleep. That stuff isn't good for our market. And I thought to myself, I'm going to screenshot that and post that, because this is a guy that literally talked about other people's achievements, but had never achieved anything himself. And I'm still amazed at how many experts there are out there that learned about it from a book they read.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw that post you put out there, and I was actually really almost fascinated by the comments that were made, and you could tell. And that's what's differentiated guys like you, is it was real talk. And I think people relate to that. Like, let's call it like it is. And 2020 has been that year of, you can't hide it. Look, we've all had struggles. We've all had things happen, whatever those might be. If you didn't have them in 2020, you weren't trying. You were hiding out in your house and living in the basement, or what you avoided the world. And we talked about this before we got started, the connectivity. And for guys like us, like, you're doing live events again, which is incredible. You were one of the first I saw to get back out and say, you know what, we're going to start doing these. But that loss of connectivity, and I know for me, I don't get to go see my teams like I used to. And not being in person has changed really everything we do right now with how we grow and we market and do things. But you've started to get back into it. What have you seen around that, Steve? That's you made some shifts that you couldn't do live events, but now I know you're doing some again now. But what have you seen around that shift and people not being able to connect in person?
Well, I don't want to go on a soapbox, so I'm actually kind of like taking a little bit of a breath here. But COVID and you'll laugh at this because COVID came along and said, right, you can't go out to restaurants, you can't mingle, you can't go to your office, you've got to stay away from people. And what was the first thing that happened? Everyone started going on about how horrible this was going to be, how they couldn't go out, how they couldn't be with their friends, how we were now, and the key word, social distancing. Okay, social distancing has become a normal word in any sentence, any conversation in 2020, hasn't it?
100%.
Well, now I'm going to call out bullshitting because we started socially distancing in about 2001 when MySpace appeared. We started outsourcing our baby photographs to Twitter and Facebook. We started moving away from connectivity 20 years ago, and now we're bitching about it. Well, I hate to reveal it to you. You did it. It was you. I'm hoping that COVID was the full stop. I'm hoping that COVID has been the dramatic end that has made you go, hang on a minute. My life isn't on Facebook. My life is having a barbecue with friends. My life is getting into a room and having a collective idea. Because how bored do we get when we're on Zoom? We're having the same conversations, but there's no energy because you can't get that energy from a screen. The dumb thing is, we're all yearning for it, but we're the culprits that walked away from it. Now, COVID, we were already social distancing. This has just been one of the first nails in the coffin, and it's not too late. And the daft thing is, now that we're realizing and we miss it, the fool would be the people that didn't do something about it.
Yeah.
We're all yearning to connect. We're all yearning to chat. We're all yearning to get in touch with each other again, share opinions, views, get away from this distraction and have a conversation. I'm hoping that people are going to do more of it. But here's, as we were saying earlier, because people are so desperate for it, they're receptive. So why wait until when COVID's over? I know FaceTime isn't as good. I know doing virtual isn't as good.
Yeah.
But it's an okay filler. It's an okay stopgap to when you can get in front of someone. Like, we were talking about Nashville. I'd love to have been in the bar with you and had a longer chat and, drank too many old fashions and told bad jokes. I want to do that. But until then, this will do. But how many people aren't even doing this? That's the bad thing.
And you hit on something I've been watching because, let's just call it what it is. We're so many months into this since March where it's like, if you were going to do something, you would have done it by now, right? I mean, the late adopters they miss the bandwagon. And I've noticed this, and you've talked about it too, Steve, like marketing and branding and really trying to generate customers and serve customers that exist today. They have a problem. I can help solve their problem, but yet I'm too afraid to get out there and say anything or do anything because I don't want to get on video. I don't want to have, the extra effort that it requires now to change my business model. And we were talking about that and I think people are going to look up next year and they're going to realize 2020 was the year that they could have solved problems, figured out new ways to be creative and help their customers. They're going through the same thing we're going through, right? Most of them are having the same experiences. You've been able to shift though. I've noticed this, and maybe it's because I've been engaging with your content, which I will say as a sidebar has been one of the best things of 2020 is engaging with the people I wanted to engage with and learn from, right? You're shifting now doing live events. Did you notice there was a different energy? Like when you did the Nashville Speakeasy, could you tell it was like pent up energy? Like, thank you, God, we are in person.
So there's a few things. I want to quickly tell you about a story which I really, really loved. I live in Los Angeles. And so every time you come to a highway junction, there's a Mexican family on the corner selling flowers or selling T-shirts, or last night was a Dodgers game, so they're selling Dodgers T-shirts, all this kind of stuff. I remember when COVID came across that there was this family that I'd always gone past, and they had like cuddly toys, like teddy bears and flowers on this intersection. They've been here ever since I've been here. And then about a month in, it was face masks. A month in, this family who probably didn't have a lot of money, certainly didn't have a lot of job future on the side of an interstate, pivoted.
Yeah.
Where's your excuse? And I remember when COVID came in, every Friday night, what I like to do is I like to reflect. And so Friday night, I'll sit in the garden with my family. We're poor and old fashioned, and we just chat about the week. What bothered you? What upset you? What are you going to change? And it's just a Friday night thing, and then we'll go out for dinner somewhere. When COVID hit, and I'm telling you this because I don't want you to think there was any intelligence behind it. And anyone that knows me knows that there's not much in any case. But you don't have to overthink things. You just have to overdo them. Yeah. So I thought to myself, I'm going to have a drink Friday. COVID's not going to change that. But maybe I can't invite a couple of friends over. So I remember going onto my Facebook group, and I've got a community called An Entrepreneur's Advantage. And it's free of charge, so there's no pitching. And I said, look, I'm going to have a drink Friday night. So, who wants to join me? All we do is I'll open up the laptop. We'll jump on a Zoom call. We'll have a drink. No pitching, no selling, no promotion, no negativity. Okay? Grab your favorite drink. I don't care if it's a coffee or if it's a cocktail. The only thing you got to do is, if picked on, you've got to come out with a dad joke. The worse, the better. Yeah. And I thought to myself, who's going to like this? I'm going to turn up on Friday, and there's going to be me staring at me. I'm going to be the only attendee. So we ended up with like about 60 people on the first Friday.
Wow.
And we're like, this is incredible. But then I said, this was cool. Should we do it again? This Friday coming is our 21st time that we've done it. We had a little break when everyone said that we were coming out of COVID, and then we went back in again. We had a break during that. But this will be the 21st virtual happy hour that we've done on Friday. We noticed that people wanted it. Mm-hmm. So we kept giving it to it. Now, we get different people turning up, but you could do this for your job. Right. You could very easily do it with your community and arrange a virtual get-together. All of these people that turn around going, I don't like being on Zoom. I didn't ask. You need to do it. The bottom line of it is you need to be doing the effort. And as we said from Jay Abraham said to me, it's an idiot that sharpens his knife on the battlefield. You're wasting time. And if you think you're going to get a badge of honor because you've managed to binge watch your favorite episode on Netflix, you ain't getting that medal anytime soon. So focus on what can make you more impactful, can make you stronger, can make you fiercer. And when I actually put the event on in Nashville, as you know, I never tell anybody who's going to turn up. I never tell anybody what they're going to learn. At this event, I think I could have just given them crayons and some paper. They were just so happy to be in a room with other mischievous creators that they were so kind of like, we're here. And I remember leading up to it, I was and I'll tell you my traffic lights, I was very concerned about COVID. Mm-hmm. So there was all these kind of like, look, if you turn up, you've got to hold me not liable, blah, blah, blah. We're going to try it, see how you did. We had 2 people that couldn't make it because there was the lockdown on the Canadian border and they couldn't get in. Okay. But what I did was I got these 3 stickers, and it was red, amber, green. Okay. Yeah. And I gave everyone these stickers, and I said, look, if you're cautious and concerned about COVID, put a red sticker on. Everyone will give you your distance. Everyone will stay away, and we will separate the room. Okay. And we separated the room. And I said, if you have amber on it, that means you will connect with people that you choose to connect with. Okay. So if the person's got amber, wait for them to come to you to give you a handshake, fist bump, hug, whatever. Okay. Sure. If you know them. If you don't know them, maybe they'll want to stay. If it's green, and we joked, we said, this is full on. You can stick your keys in a bowl and you can wife swap all night. And we made this joke about green was all go, anything's open. When we got there, we had a few people putting ambers on and stuff like that. And then within 10 minutes, they were like, I need green. Just give me green. And we had all these chairs on the outside where people could space. And everyone was huddled on the sofas that we had up front. Everyone wanted to be tied together. They were so happy that they could connect with other misfits that they didn't care.
Man. And I would expect that after, especially the group that you attract, is they're they're yearning for some connection and just how can I be around people? Like you said, you can transfer energy so much better in person. As much as we love Zoom and we're figuring all this stuff out, and we're not going to use that as an excuse. In person, the energy is real. It's a different vibration. And
oh yeah,
man, I love too, and I want to make sure because I know some of the guests would love to hear from you on this year has brought about some awareness of you talk about sharpening the saw, and I love that. Big believer in that. I love how you said that's you can't do it on the battlefield. You got to do it now. What are some of the skills you're seeing maybe that people aren't thinking of, or that you're like, hey, Brian, these are the skills you need to be sharpening your saw now. You need to be preparing now off the battlefield in training to make sure you've got, and maybe new skills or things that we're just not working on enough. And you see a deficiency in people.
Well, the beautiful thing, and I will go on record and upset people here. I know that there's been some anguish. I know that there's been deaths, and I'm not trying to trivialize anything like that. But COVID, I think, is a gift. I really, I may upset people. If you want to unfriend me, fine, knock yourself out. But how you use it, it can be a gift. For me, I travel literally once a month somewhere around the world. My wife actually said to me that this is the first year, 2020, that in a month to a month, I haven't traveled for 9 years. So for the last 9 years, every month I was on a plane or driving somewhere. I've been able to spend more time with my family. I've been able to sit down. And here's the beautiful thing. You've been able to stare at your feet. You see, in 2019, 18, 17, business was cracking. We were going like crazy. We were shooting along. It's given us the chance to just stand still and go, hang on a minute. Let me ask myself a question. Am I where I wanted to be 5 years ago, or have I gone off track?
Yeah.
Is my messaging synced to the solution that I can provide to your problem? Am I showing myself in the continuity I should be across all digital platforms? Am I focused on my future? If so, is it being shown in what I've been doing over the last few years? The bottom line of it is, even a ship or a race car has to correct itself constantly to stay on track. Yeah. As we're getting into business, we would sometimes go off like a deer in headlights, and we can get off track very, very easily. Now is the time you've really got to look inwards and go, is my messaging clear? And they always say there's a difference between being easy to understand and impossible to misunderstand. Is my message impossible to misunderstand? Am I the solution to someone's problem? And if so, how do I get more of those people that have those problems? Because here's the dumb thing. COVID's here. It hasn't got rid of their problems. Yeah. In the real estate world, in the loan world, in the financial world, they've still got the goals. They've just maybe been put on pause, or maybe we can use them. Interest rates are lower than they've ever been. Yeah. You know, people can still sit at home and go, oh, when COVID's over, I can't wait to do this. So why don't you install now that when the time's right, you're the person that actually creates that? You know, we want that communication. We want to be fine-tuned. Now is the time you need to be able to sit down, because everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's been put on pause. Everyone can't go out and do as many live things as they want to. So use that time to impact you as much as you can. I also think people are now going to be looking for more substance and credibility. Yeah. I think we're done with the time of the flashies. I remember a friend of mine, and I know some powerful people, friend of mine owns 5 jets, okay? I remember wanting to go somewhere once, and he was having a hard time deciding which jet we would go on. That was that guy's problems, all right? Yeah. But he said to me once when we got on this jet, he said, you know, I don't know anyone that owns a jet that's ever taken a selfie of themselves on one. And it's true. Everyone that's taken a selfie of themselves on a plane doesn't own the plane. So it's always made me laugh. So I think we're going to see a big change on that.
Wow. And I think we were talking about that before. That's going to be the differentiator going into next year of the people that have acquired the skills, sharpened the saw, gotten better this year. And your point, despite COVID, because all of us, like, I'm with you. The gift was I got to spend time with my 5-year-old. My oldest is 13 and our middle is about to be 12. I've missed out. I mean, my wife and I joke about this, is I didn't know so many things happened, right? And I got to see it and be part of it, that this will be a snapshot in time that we're creating memories and they will be able to remember that dad was around and being there. I think it's going to help in my personal growth and development. But I'm also very aware of what are the skills I'm going to need as a leader. What does the team need from me? And I can't be the leader Brian was 5 years ago to lead them through what we have in 2020, 2021, and going forward. I've got to elevate.
Don't you think he's been an amplifier? Don't you think COVID has created? Because if you're in a bad mood and you drink, it puts you in a worse mood. If you're happy and you drink, it puts you in a really happy mood. Ooh, yeah. Businesses have been going broke at the moment that were already pretty weak. Yeah. The COVID came across and just amplified. It brought it forward a few years. I started a business a couple of years ago and was teetering around about pushing it out there. COVID exposed so many flaws, I shut it down. Okay. So now, if you've got weaknesses with your group because you can't connect with them, now's the chance that it's been revealed to you that you can do something about it. You can now see the holes in your group, in your business, in your life, and in your relationships.
Yeah.
Because as you say, I'm at home with my 15-year-old, my 23-year-old, and my wife. Okay. And I'm very, very happy about that. But I've got to connect more with my kids during this period. Okay. Yeah. And again, it's the idiot that's going to come out of this and go, wow, that was good. Brilliant. Thanks, kids. I'm off. You know, right. Now's a brilliant time for you to actually benefit. TV is rubbish because there's no new programs. So yeah. TV's gone bye-bye at the moment. I literally can spend time each night sitting around the fireplace or sitting around the dining table, chatting with the kids. You know, what do you want to do? I spent last night talking to my 15-year-old about a car that when he gets his driving license, he wants to put this on and that. I know nothing about cars, but I never would have had that conversation had we all not been receptive to wanting to have that conversation. It's been a glorious time.
Oh, I love that. You were talking earlier about the Friday night chats and how your week went and all that. And we do this. It's called Rosebud Thorn with the kids at night. And the rose is obviously, you know, the best part of your day. The thorn is something that didn't go so well that day, and recognizing that's okay too. And then, you know, the bud is, hey, what are you hopeful for tomorrow? What do you want to have happen tomorrow?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really, I'll give my wife 100% credit. And that has been more impactful having those conversations, because you're right. You slow down, you listen, and you're like, man, what did they experience today? And getting to find that out. And I'm excited because as we move forward, there's so much learning I feel like was compressed in this year. And we talked about earlier was, you know, connecting with guys like yourself and some others that have put themselves out there. I love the word amplify you use, because I feel like people have started to amplify who they are, and some have, some haven't. But man, it's been cool to get to know people, and in turn, you get to know yourself. And you're like, hey, there's a little bit of me in that guy or that person. And I think what's going to be interesting is, what do people do with that information now? Because it's one thing to like take all the info in. You can go to YouTube and Google, you can get all this info, but you talk about this a lot. Is like, when you're going to make things happen, you got to take action. So what's Steve looking at? Because I know people can learn from you. What are you looking at from what you've learned this year that you'll take into next year? They're like those big lessons that'll kind of catapult. Now I can do this. Now I'm prepared to take that next step for you.
So when two people meet for the first time, the first thing they have to do is find a common ground that they can relate to. Okay. We've known that for years. You know, when you're kids, you know, you turn up, you're in a playground. Both kids have got a red jacket on. Oh, we both got red jackets on. There's a connection.
Yeah.
COVID has given us that connection. For the first time ever in your life and so many others, you could literally be dropped on an island. You could be dropped in the middle of Pakistan. You could be dropped in Rome, Russia, and you have some element of connectivity straight off the bat that's been provided to you. Thank you to Mr. COVID or Mrs. COVID, whatever you think.
Yeah.
But we have that ability to relate. We have a common ground. We can start conversations easier because of that. You can walk up to someone and say, hey, how you doing, Brian? You know, hey, how's life treating you? How are the family during this time? Bang, straight away. You could never have said that on another time.
No.
But so many people are waiting until COVID's over to start those conversations. Why? We're yearning for connectivity. America and the planet is telling us, hey, we've got to socially distance. Socially distance doesn't end a phone call. In fact, there's no safer way than to actually phone someone. The thing that makes me laugh is on these phones, every week now, Apple has this thing where it releases how much time you spent on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever noticed that it'll be like, 20 hours on Wi-Fi, so-and-so on FaceTime, 3 minutes on a phone call? The phones are the least thing you use these things for now.
Wow.
Because quite simply, we find it also a bit intrusive.
Mm-hmm.
But how nice is it when we get a phone call and it's like, Brian, how are you? Hey, there's no reason for me to call other than I just wanted to check in on you. How are you doing? Why are we avoiding that? I will literally spend each week, print off a new element of my data. And I did it yesterday. I printed off the T's, the letter T out of my database. And I'm working my way through the T's. Just ad hoc. I'm going through the T's. I've done it. And Trevor, how you doing? We haven't spoken for a while, but hey, these are funny times. How are you doing? And just reach out to people. You'll be amazed at how many people that I'm actually working with. I'm still branding. I'm doing a branding contract at the moment for an event that's coming out in 2023. Wow. Because of a phone call that I made, I think to the C's, that came up. We ended up getting into the conversation. I'm doing a product launch for a friend of mine in Australia that we're actually planning that now. I don't know when that one's going to be, but we can still be busy. We can still create. We can still disrupt. We can still connect. But why are we choosing not to do it?
And that is pure gold. For those of you that are listening, rewind that back. And you made me think about this morning. I was going through Facebook, giving everybody the happy birthdays and all that stuff that pop up. If you have your list, like you said, you don't have some fancy software, CRM or whatever. No. You're just taking the names and you're actually laying out a game plan. Like, I'm going to call the people in the T's. I'm calling the C's. And imagine how cool that would feel. And I know being on the receiving end on my birthday a couple months ago, the people that called, sent videos, sent things over. It was that quick connection of like, man, I miss them. And it's an instantaneous, like, okay, now I'm building something with them and we're not so distant anymore. That pure gold, costs you nothing.
Well, let me give you a shortcut on this because there's going to be a lot of people that say, because everyone always looks at the big tree, and everyone's going to be like, well, I've got 4,000 contacts in my database. I can't phone them all up. What else you got to do? Right. Friends is now off Netflix. There's nothing else you can do. So, an easy little cheat for you. Okay, pick up this thing. Okay, everyone's got one, and video yourself, and do a little video saying, "Hey, sorry for interrupting. Don't call out the name because it's going to be a text. You say sorry for interrupting your day, but your name came across me this morning. We haven't spoken for a while. Just wanted to find out how you're doing. I'm wishing you the best. I'd love to have the time to have a chat with you. If you're up for that, just let me know a good time and I'll give you a call." And then with that video, text it to everybody. You'll get a lot of people that will go, "Oh, thanks, Steve. That was it's the same video."
Yeah.
Okay. Because you don't need to introduce yourself. I don't have to do a video going, "Hey, Brian, how you doing? This is Steve Sims." You already know who Steve Sims is.
That's right.
And friends don't go up to each other going, good afternoon, Brian. How are you? We don't address each other. But so text can be a lot more casual. If you do that generic video, you'll get a lot of people going, "Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm doing well. Let's catch up in the future." And they won't set us. And then you'll get other people going, "That's brilliant. Are you available?" And then it's a natural filter process. But you made the effort. You sent out that video. You got in front of people. You triggered a response. And let's understand this. We're dealing with a lot of triggers at the moment. If I say to you, Trump, okay, straight away, and I don't care about your political view. I've got no dog in the fight. I'm British. I can't vote. People are going to respond. People are going to be, oh God, he's going to talk about Trump. And there's going to be other people out there going, great, it created a trigger.
That's right.
Okay. Triggers are things that without you realizing create a reaction in you. Now, when we're out of COVID, they're going to remember your video. They're going to remember that in a tough time, you reached out.
Yes.
So when we've got the green light and everything's out there again, and you send your next video going, I am thrilled that's over. Hey, what are you dreaming of doing? And how can I be a solution for you? And you start sending that video out, they're going to go, do you know, he sent me he cared then. Yeah. He actually made himself known then. And how much does it cost? If you click Wi-Fi texting on your phone, it costs you that. It costs you nothing other than your time and you not being able to watch Netflix for a couple of hours.
Right. I think it's a fair trade, and it's something we can all do. And I love how simply you put that, because that's something today that we overthink it. And I'm sure there are people listening and like, oh, that just won't seem authentic or genuine or whatever. And it's like, hey, look, let's call it what it is. Like, that's actually, I don't agree with that personally. If someone sent me that, to your point, we don't greet each other the way that people would think and start using their names over and over and over. Why not try it? And that's the difference between, almost takes us back to the beginning, the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are going to take action and say, you know what? Why not? I'm going to try this.
Yep.
Yeah. So before we wrap, I got to ask, because you have been one of the people I've followed and kept up with. You talk about branding quite a bit. And I think there's never been a better time in our life that we have attention. We have the tools at which we can make things really go viral in a way. I'm not talking about like nationwide and all this crazy stuff, but your community, whether it's 20 people or 20,000 people, you can get their attention right now and you can get to people. So in the world of branding, what are you seeing, or would you encourage people to lean into to make sure that they're taking advantage of this time to be branding themselves and start to grow their personal brand?
So branding, I have a polar opposite idea of what branding actually is. Okay. Now I grew my business, and then I've worked with some of the greatest events in the planet, marketing and branding, from the Grammys to Sir Elton John's Oscar party. I believe you shouldn't focus on branding. Okay. Because let's understand what branding is. Let's break it down. Branding is what someone else says about you when you've left the room.
Yes.
Okay. So don't worry about polishing your website. Make sure you've got continuity, but focus on being the solution to someone's problem. Okay. That's what you should focus on. If you got crazy hair, don't wear a wig or a hat. Be you. Okay. Yep. Because again, we spoke about triggers. I guarantee you there are people within your group that are listening to this and going, I don't like that guy, and that's fine. We'll be totally fine. And then there are others that are going, that guy's great,
Yep. That's right.
But there'd be very, very, very few that are on the fence. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not trying to do a fishing net capture all scenario. So what you've got to do is be in sync with your message. Whatever your message is, repeat it. Look at people like Apple. Okay. Apple made its products that looked good. Everyone got into Apple because of how they looked originally. If you look at Nike, just do it. Okay. They made it impossible for you to get that slogan wrong. Nike, just do it. But it's not that. It's not what they make, is it? Just do it is, what is that? They make sneakers. Yeah. People talk about LeBron. They talk about the Lakers. They talk about running. The bottom line of it is, make sure that what you provide is the solution to somebody else, and then get them to talk about you. So focus on what are you a solution. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to go, well, if you're a realtor and you're selling great homes in Birmingham, Alabama, then why are you the best at doing it? Make it crystal clear why people need to come to you for that. If you're a loan officer in Miami, then why are you the best one in Miami? Because you solved the problems that you didn't even know were there. Okay. They say the client's always right. Wrong. The client doesn't know what they don't know. That's your job. Okay.
Yeah.
So focus on being the solution, then focus on making sure that there's clarity and continuity so that everyone knows what the solution you are to someone's problem. That's the branding. No one ever got me involved because they thought I was gorgeous, or they wanted to, or anything like that. They got involved with me, and I didn't even have a website. And bearing in mind, most of my websites don't even have phone numbers. So you can't contact me and wait for me to sell you on my super skills. I've just made it very clear that everybody I solve the problem for, whether it be billionaires giving them great cocktail stories, or whether it be my coaching programs, teaching people how to be fine-tuned, I let them do the branding for me. So focus on what is the problem that you are the solution to, and then let everyone else talk about it.
So simple, but yet I would encourage everybody, if you're listening in and as you catch the replay on this, rewind that back and really think about what Steve's sharing there about getting clear on why you are that go-to person in your market. I think about our loan officers, real estate agents we work with, like getting clear on that. And then to your point, being able to message and communicate that effectively, game changer. I think about people that I know why they're the best because I hear it over and over and over, and it's simple. It's easy to remember, and they've done it. Wow, I know we could continue to go on, and this has been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for your time. I want to make sure people know where they can find you after the show. So on social or places to catch up with Steve so they can follow along and learn more from you.
Sure. Well, as I say, I've got a free group for a bunch of misfits to get in there and ask questions called An Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. It's free of charge and it's there to support you. But I'm at stevedsims.com, and you can find out about Sims Distillery, which is my inner circle, or you can find out about my speakeasies and how little information I actually give you on these wonderful events. Is hilarious how little I will actually share, but be happy to charge you on.
Yes. Man, thank you. This has been a joy, and I know people are going to find value. And that's really why we started the show and the podcast and everything we're doing is I wanted to be a connector and a light for people to find opportunities to learn and grow and really hear from some of the people that are not only sharing information, but they're doing it. They're out there actually living what they talk about. And Steve's one of those guys. You got to follow along. I jumped into a couple of those groups that he mentioned. So if you want any references, let me know. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like, you subscribe, leave us comments and feedback. And then also many of you have sent us guests that you want to have on the show. That's incredible as well, because there are people that maybe I'm not aware of, but I should, and we want to bring on here. So make sure you guys tune in for the next episodes, catch some of the ones I shared with you we've done lately, and make sure you're learning and growing. Take advantage of every day you have and make sure it's your best day on the earth. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.